Hey.
Hey, Karl, what's up?
What are you doing?
Well, I'm working on your starter here. Remember you dropped it off?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that'll help it. Hey, I thought we were going riding. That doesn't look like riding gear.
Well, have I got a story for you?
Come on.
Oh, yeah.
All right, well, why don't everybody sit back, grab something cold to drink, and we'll hear Karl's story today on Dino's Tinker Shed. All right, come on in. Okay, Karl, I gotta know. I was expecting you to be coming over here wearing your riding gear because we were gonna go for a ride today. Where is it?
Well, I was expecting the same thing until 2 nights ago. I went out to get something off my bike, and the bike was gone.
Come on.
Oh, yeah, it was gone. I looked in the shed. I thought, oh, maybe I put it in the shed, kind of losing
No.
my mind. Looked in the shed, looked around, looked in the yard, gone.
I know that feeling because I know we had our Jeep. My wife's Jeep was stolen out of our driveway about 10 years ago. And I remember we looked in between the two houses, like the grass, to see if maybe we parked it there the night before.
Yeah.
It's a weird
Yeah,
feeling
you look
for
around,
sure.
because there's no way somebody would take it. Like, I've lived there at that house for 30 years. We've never had anything touched.
Yeah.
Had numerous bikes in the carport,
Yeah.
never touched. And to go out there and see something gone,
And it's a horrible feeling, isn't it? Like,
Yeah.
what does it feel like, Karl? Like,
it's a violation.
it's a violation. It honestly is.
But yeah, it's like, why would, because it's not a new bike. I thought, you know, who's going to steal this
Yeah.
thing? But apparently we have a big problem in Niagara Falls.
Well, all of Ontario, I understand,
there's a lot
power
of-
sports theft is huge
A lot
right
of
now.
drug activity and people wanting fast cash. Maybe unemployment's higher than
Yeah.
the government says and all that stuff. But
Yeah.
there seems to be some not so nice people out there.
Yeah, and this is one of the reasons I did a video on how to purchase an ATV. I won't buy anything unless it has an ownership because people steal stuff and then they sell it without an ownership, right? And this is exactly what
And
happens.
I have a couple things I wanted to sell off the bike, like some tires that
Yeah.
and I thought, well, I'll put them on Facebook or Kijiji or something. Then I got somebody coming into my house, who knows who they are and if they're scouting. So now you're kind of paranoid, and I shouldn't be.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, that's crazy. That's crazy. So what did you do next then?
well, I called the police. The report.
You did, eh?
Yeah, I called and spoke to the dispatcher at the region, told her what happened. She was very understanding, very nice. And a nice officer showed up at the house, and he took my story, and he said it's rampant. People,
Really, eh?
Yeah, getting ripped off. And he asked me to get me the serial numbers and the plate number. I had everything ready for him, and basically said they'll be on the lookout for it.
Yeah.
But you know,
Did they give you any hope? Like,
well, I didn't have any hope.
none, eh?
No, I just thought it was gone. The only hope I had, if it was really good thieves,
Yeah.
I wouldn't see it again. But the hope was it was some kind of drug guys, like kind of
Opportunists almost, eh?
sketchy dudes.
Yeah.
And they took it, and they're always in trouble.
Yeah.
And maybe they'll find the bike.
Oh my gosh. So what did your insurance company say? How long do you have to wait before you get money for insurance?
Well, no money for Karl.
What?
Because Karl didn't have theft on it, apparently. It was one of those boxes you tick.
Yeah.
But this is the scenario. When I talked to insurance, the bike was valued $3,000.
Right.
So on the bike, there's a $500 deductible.
Okay.
So if the bike never came back, I'd be out for
$500.
Well,
More
no,
than that.
Yeah,
really,
I'd be
'cause
out
your
like
bike was worth more than that.
Yeah, I had an extra tank on and all this
Yeah.
stuff, but so I would get $2,500 for the bike. Now I can't go out and buy another bike comparable for $2,500.
Not even close. Nope.
So my hope was, we'll hopefully find it, and
No, it must have been an outrageous amount of money for theft insurance then, was it?
oh yeah, it was $17 a year.
Oh my God.
I didn't tick the box.
Lesson learned,
I
right?
didn't tick
Yeah,
the box. So
no.
now I put theft on it, but
Yeah.
I don't know.
So was there any update on the bike?
Well, yeah. They the other day I was just in the basement. I heard the big thud at the door.
Yeah,
Boom, boom, boom.
yeah.
the police knock, as you see on TV, and I went outside in my house coat still, because it was like 8:30, retired.
Retired, yeah.
And
8:30 house coat. That's
some
fine.
big cop out there. He goes, "Hey, how you doing?" I goes, "Oh, great." He goes, "We found your bike."
Come on.
Yeah, we found your bike. I goes, "You got to be kidding." He goes, "No." So I said, "What's the deal?" He goes, "Well, it's at a location, and I'm just in contact with the other officer because they went to this known drug house, I guess. Went around the backyard, seen the bike, and knew
Didn't look right, eh?
yeah, this thing's stolen." So
Yeah.
we ran the numbers and bingo.
Fantastic.
Yeah, it was. I couldn't believe it.
Yeah.
So I went to they took me to the house, and there's my bike.
Well, it's good, perfect. It's in perfect shape, right?
It wasn't that great.
No way.
They had stripped off the windshield, took my airhawk seat, took the mirrors off, took my rack off with my little storage box. They took all the accessories off it, and in the hand guards.
Oh my god.
And the cop told me they do that to disguise the bike.
Yeah.
And they even tried to rub off the numbers off the seat.
Oh, like the name, like
Suzuki, yeah, they use
Oh
some,
my
I don't know, the
gosh.
SOS or something. So
Yeah.
I looked at it, I goes, "Is that my bike?" And then cop goes, "Yeah, it's the numbers." I goes,
Yeah. Well, the Chirpy's tank
yeah,
names
yeah,
would have been
and I
a
goes,
dead
"This is
giveaway,
mine."
right?
But then I'm looking at it, and I put my key in, and it started. I said, "Great, it's mine." So I drove away. I
my
told the
God.
cop, I goes, "There's no," they took the plate, they cut the plate off it.
Really?
And I goes to the cop, I goes, "It's got no plates on it." He goes, "Don't worry about it, we know you."
Yeah.
So I rode it home, which is only about a mile and a half.
Yeah.
And got it home. I'm looking, how did they get this? Then I looked at the ignition, and it looks to me like they got a flat screwdriver, whacked it in there, and cranked it that way. And it looks weird.
Yeah,
because
yeah.
It's all punched out.
Right.
So now I'm in the process of buying all the parts. So I'm probably up to my deductible, $500 in ordering new
Yeah,
parts.
but at least you still have the bike.
Yeah, so the bike was in otherwise perfect shape. They didn't bend the rims
Well,
or.
and I have to say, the Niagara Regional Police found our Jeep 10 years ago too. We thought we had lost it in the same kind of thing. It was at a person's house, an apartment complex. They had killed the battery because they were listening to tunes and they'd stolen
Yeah,
all
yeah.
change out of
Oh,
it.
yeah.
But the Niagara Regional Police really, for us anyway, it sounds like for you did
Oh,
a
no.
great job
Well, the guys
at
were
locating it,
True
right?
gentlemen, like they're
Yeah.
great. Like they really went out of their way.
Oh, that's
Because they were actually
fantastic.
happy that a tax-paying guy like me got his property back, because
Yes.
it doesn't happen very often.
Yeah,
They're
that's
like,
crazy.
and they're just, their hands are tied most of the time, because
Yeah.
the person that had the bike, the house, they knock on the door and say, "Hey, you got the bike," and they'll
Yeah.
say, "Well, I don't know how it got there." So they're just beating their head against the wall.
Yeah. Well,
So
that's
So it's a frustrating job for them, because they like to take these guys off the street, but
yeah, well, it's tough, right? It's tough.
well, yeah, I don't know.
All right. Well, it sounds like we have a little bit of a rebuild that we have to do on your bike
Oh.
over the next little while.
Yeah,
then.
we got some. We got a few little
And
things.
if they cut off your license plate bracket, I guess we need to get a new one. I got some scrap steel.
Yeah.
Why don't I get a new one made?
Yes.
Well, you go and get, a new
I
license
have to
plate.
get a new license plate, new owner. Like my ownership was all in the bike in the box, so
Oh,
that'd be
no.
good to have. Now I'm not going to store anything on it.
Yeah.
They even got my Kelly kettle. I had the little stove in the
Oh,
back.
no.
Yeah, remember the Kelly
The
kettle?
Kelly kettle.
They got the
oh.
and my chair. That I still have
chair.
I still have my folding chair in the
Oh
back.
my gosh.
Yeah, and my rock straps.
Oh my gosh.
So I have
Carl.
$500
So
around there.
You'll be $500 just
So
in
it's just
replacement parts.
I think it's just an unfortunate
yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
Because if I had insurance, I still would have been. Somebody says, "Well, if you had insurance, you wouldn't have to take the bike back." I goes, "Well, where am I going to find another
You're
bike
never
for
gonna-
$2,500?"
You're never
right?
gonna,
And
a DR, $5,500, $4,500
yeah.
minimum.
And if I think the rules are in Ontario, I think if the bike is considered salvage,
Yes.
you can't relicense the bike.
Oh, so it's all parts.
Yeah, they don't want wrecked bikes going back on the
Yeah.
road. I believe I read
Yeah.
that somewhere. It makes sense.
Could be, yeah.
Because you get a lot
Alright.
of people that would fix something that shouldn't be fixed, and
Yeah.
maybe they had problems in the past. But I believe once it's salvage, it's considered
Right.
parts.
Well, Carl, look, I really appreciate you sharing your story with everybody out there, and I'll get to work on that license plate bracket first. Maybe we'll do that right now after Carl heads out, and we'll get you back out on the road. You can get the bike back over here, and we'll start putting new parts on it.
Yeah.
Hey, okay?
Yeah. We'll get the parts coming.
All right.
It's a long process though, because you got to wait the mailman, the
Yeah.
Amazon, Bush Pig, all these guys are
Yeah.
kind of
Fort 9.
Fort
all the-
9.
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, well.
They all have my credit card number now.
Okay. All right, well, I'll get to work on that. We'll get that back on the road, and we'll talk later.
And then we'll go for a nice road trip.
Then we'll go for a road trip. Okay, let's get working on that bracket now, I guess. These jerks actually cut his license plate bracket off and threw away his license plate. It's bad enough he has to go get another plate, but now the bracket's completely useless too. Now we could probably go and source one of these from Suzuki, or you could get a tail tidy kit to replace all of this here. However, he just wants to get back out on the road. So I think what I'll do today is I'll make a rudimentary bracket out of some scrap steel that I have laying around. Why don't we get working on that right now? To make a new bracket, I really should use my old one as a template, so I'll do that. I'll start by removing the license plate off of the bracket, and then taking these 2 bolts out that run from the bracket all the way to the inside of the fender. It's pretty easy to do, but sometimes these kind of things can be complicated. This one just didn't want to come off. Even after I got the nuts off the back, it sort of wanted to give me a bit of a fight, but eventually I got it. The previous owner must have had a set of panniers on my DR650, and I think this bracket is a remnant of that. It's got some quick release cams on there. I'm not going to put this back on the bike, but I'm also not going to throw it out. You never know, it could be handy in the future. Here's the bracket that supports the license plate. So it basically just bolts in like that and it gets held in place. Here's the challenge for me anyway, is these bends here are 90 degrees. That's pretty simple. I can do that in my brake press. I can drill these holes out, no problem. But you'll see that these bends here are actually on an angle. That's pretty easy if you're stamping these parts out. For me, I think it might be easiest if I first make these 90-degree bends and maybe cut that angle and then weld that piece on there. That might be the easiest. I'll see what I can do. Might be cheaper just to buy this thing. However, we want to get her on the road as fast as we can, right? So I'll see what I can do here. The steel that I'm going to use is a little bit thicker too. It won't be a problem for me to bend it. My brake can bend this pretty easy. And it'll actually be a little easier to weld. It'll be really solid too when it's done. So I think I'll start first just by getting this done, laying out the actual holes here. I don't think I need this center hole here. I'm not sure what that's for. It might be a registration. I'll have a look and see if I need it or not. I can't see Suzuki drilling a hole unless they needed it. Once I get this up on the bench, I'm going to measure all the different sides here and kind of see what I'm into for length of material. Once I figure out a rough idea, I'll lay the bracket onto the material and I'm going to mark the holes. And I decided I'm just going to drill that hole anyway. I don't know what it's for, but it's just drilling a hole, right? These lines here are where I'm going to actually bend this piece of material. And I'll bend these up at 90 degrees. But first I'm going to drill those holes. So I'll center punch all of these. And this just allows your drill bit to find center a little bit easier. And then just with a little bit of oil on my pilot drill, I'll drill 3 small holes through here. And once I get the pilot drills done, I'll switch over and hog these out to the right size to allow those 10mm bolts to get through. I'll just chamfer them just so they look a little tidier. It's never a bad idea to dry fit these, and that's what I'm doing here. I just want to make sure I've got my hole alignments proper. Once I do, I'm going to head over to my press here and I'm going to install my little brake press. Now this brake press is actually made for a vise, but I just use it in my upright hydraulic press. So I'll line the dies up here so they're in line, and then I'll just place my piece of metal in, line the top die up with the marker line that I made, and then just press away. And this die will form a really good 90-degree bend if you bottom it out. You can kind of see here. Then it's just a matter of putting the other one on and doing the same thing. So this gives me my two uprights, and I'll just cut off the extra length of the one that's in there. Looks pretty good, I think. Now I do need to determine this angle here, and I think the easiest way to do that is with just a protractor, an adjustable protractor here. I basically just laid it along the straight edge and lined it up as best I could to get that angle. It's reasonable. It looks to me like it's about 10 degrees. And I'll lay these out on here. I'll take the high spot, the highest point right here, transfer it over, and then I'll scribe a line. About 25 millimeters, I guess, be sufficient. Let's see here if I can just go like that. And then on this side, little scratch in there. I'm going to clamp this in the vise, and then I'll just lay that line out with a scribe. Now that we've determined the angle, I'm going to just scribe a couple lines in here on each side to make sure that I get these angles cut properly in the bracket. I have to reverse the protractor to 10 degrees the other way so that I cut them the same direction. Ooh, squirrel. I like squirrels. And I'll scribe those with this awl, like I said. Following that, it's just a matter of cutting. Now, I don't know about you. I find freehand cutting with a grinder challenging. I'm okay at it, but I never really get it as precise as I would like to. So I always end up coming back to the bench vise with a good quality file. And it just straightens up all the edges, and you can see here I've got them. They look pretty equal. The next thing I'm going to do if I ever move my hand here is mark a line and cut the tabs that I'm going to weld on the outside edges of that bracket to make that sort of step down. I'll do the same thing. I'll use the grinder here to cut my tabs. But what I'll do is I'll actually stack these vertically in the vise. And you can see that there's a little bit of discrepancy to the one tab, so I'll file these down. Now I could do this with the grinder as well, but I find that the file's a little bit more precise and it keeps the edge a little more square. Once I get the one side done, I'll clamp these with a C-clamp and flip them over. And these are really close because I registered them on the bottom of the vise. But I do take the time with a file just to crisp them up to make sure they're as close as possible to each other so that the tabs are the same length. These look pretty good now. I've laid them out here on a piece of angle iron that I have clamped in my vise. And you can see that everything's nice and straight. They look parallel. It's good enough here that I can tack weld these in place just to make sure that they don't move. So I'll put a couple tacks on the one side, then I'll switch over and I'll tack them on the other side, and I'll come back and just verify that everything's still straight and nothing's moved. Once I'm confident, I'll come back in and permanently weld these. So I'll just run a single bead down each side just to tighten everything up. I think that's going to be strong enough, and here you can kind of see the final product. Again, my welder is pretty cheap. Not too good at it, but a flap disc will clean everything up, and it'll allow me to basically put a line down the center of the straps or the tabs, and then I'll drill a couple holes and cut these out with my Dremel. Once the tab's opened up, I'll clean it up with a small file, and this creates the slot for the actual license plate. And I'm just going to round off the end of the tabs here just so no one gets cut or hurt. Now I just used my drafting circle template here from like high school. Mr. Anderson would kill me if I used a marker on a circle template. But anyway, here you can see that the ends are rounded off, and I'll nip those off with the grinder, and then it's back to the file. Now this technique of the seesawing, it seems counterintuitive, but I actually learned this, I think, from Blondie Hack showed us how to do this. The other option, of course, is to go to your bench grinder. Now, I don't like to do this because I have a very fine wheel on my grinder. It's not really meant for rough work like this. It's meant for sharpening drill bits and tooling steels, but it does work. So please don't hate on me for using the wrong type of grindstone here. It's, what do they say? The finer the wheel, the harder the steel kind of thing. This is very soft steel. I should have a very coarse wheel on here. However, it did an alright job, and you can see here's the filed end. I'm happy with this. Okay, here's the original, and here is mine that I made. All I need to do now is just put a little bit of paint on there, and I think it'll be pretty good. I did end up, mine's a little wider through here. It fits fine, and I think it's a little heavier duty than this one. Not that that makes any difference at all. But anyway, I think I might just give this one to Karl. You have a factory one. I'll put this one onto mine once I get it painted, and it should all be good. When I get it painted, I'll take another shot of it for you. And here is the final product. Karl already has it mounted on his motorcycle, and he has his new license plate on there, and of course he's got a new ownership as well. So the bike is ready to ride, and soon we can start rebuilding it with parts that he has on order. Now, if you talk to any police officer or any insurance person, they're going to tell you there's a few steps you can take to help protect your bike from being stolen. The first is, if you have a garage or a shed like mine, get it in there and get it under lock and key. It's out of sight, and it's more difficult for them because they have to break into either the building or the garage itself. That's your best case scenario. Now, if you don't have access to that, there's a few tips that they'll tell you that are important. Number one, surprisingly, is even a motorcycle cover provides some protection because it hides the style of motorcycle, the type of motorcycle, and actually makes it less obvious to thieves because it's underneath a black cover. It's a cheap, inexpensive way to get your bike out of sight. Disc locks are good as well. You can mount those on your front wheel or your back wheel, but wheels can be lifted up and moved. They can load it into a truck if they really do want it. A better option is a heavy-duty chain that runs through part of your frame or even through your drive chain and mounts to a physical object. That way they have a lot more difficulty lifting it up and carrying it away. Of course, your steering lock does help, but again, if you've got 2 or 3 strong people, they can lift that bike up and throw it into a truck pretty quickly. So your best option, really, if you can, is get it into a building when you can. Okay, well, I'm really happy that Karl got his bike back and that we'll still be able to do some moto touring this year. We were getting pretty depressed when he did call me and say, look, I lost my bike. It was kind of a crappy day, but he's got it back. I'd like to again thank the Niagara Regional Police Department for their great effort in finding his bike and getting it back into his hands. The work they do is really important, and I know I appreciate it, and I know Karl does as well, so thank you again. Well, I'm gonna get back. I've got a few things I need to do on my bike, but I hope to see you soon here on Dino's Tinker Shed. You have a great day. Bye for now.